for
And
another lovely episode from Crazy Gals, Crazy Ladies, Crazy Talk.
crazy, crazy talk of crazy ladies. I think
Yes,
it's fun to be crazy.
it's fun. It's more fun. It's
It
more
is.
fun than to be boring and normal, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But normal is also really based on your perception, what normal is, right?
True. And then, I mean, normal and boring could be a good thing too, because, sometimes life gets a little too crazy and normal boring actually feels nice and relaxing. So,
There you
too much
go.
going on.
So we're talking today about the fact that life is not happening to you. Everything is around you is happening for you. What do you think about that concept?
Well, first we have to define that a little by sharing some examples, right? Let's see. What's some examples of things that we might feel like it's done to us versus for us? A lot of the things that happen in our lives, right, on a daily basis.
Mhm.
We run into red lights constantly when we are in a rush, or we get ourselves into little accidents. It could be a little bump on a sharp surface, or you can actually fall and break a leg. What else? Dramas in our lives with other people.
Yes.
We keep running into the same patterns of people and environment, and we're like, what the hell is going on here? Why is this always happening to me? Right?
Hmm. It's
Stuff
that
like
it's
that.
that going a little bit in that victimhood, right? It's happening to me, poor me. Why? I did not deserve this, or I do not deserve this.
Right, right. But a lot of times it doesn't seem necessarily victimizing when you're in it. In fact, a lot of times you'll complain about something to someone and be like, oh my gosh, yes, that's so annoying. And everybody aligns with it because they also have experienced very similar, or something gets in their way of their path or of whatever they're doing. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's awful. And yeah, there's a lot of things that happen, anything really that we don't
I mean,
like,
I think
right?
the greatest example is traffic, right? You're in traffic, it's annoying, whatever it is, and God forbid you have to pee. I'm sorry, this story of my life.
Or that's just the start of it. That's the first thing that happens. And then you go to, I don't know, a store, and the register's not working. And then in,
Yeah.
you go to work and you're trying to do something, write up a paper or something, and your computer starts having conniptions on something and you can't make it work. And everything just run into each other. Yeah, there's times like that where that happens. And you're like, what is this? And we blame all the situations, but it's happening to us in that moment for whatever reason. So,
That's because we feel helpless, right? It's happen like we have zero control of what's happening.
hmm,
But I don't know if you know who Bashar is, right? He is a channel being.
yes.
Okay. So Bashar, I just want to make sure, and if you guys don't know who Bashar is, YouTube him. He's a channel being channeled by Darlenka. He gave this explanation, which I thought was awesome. And the explanation about traffic specifically. A lot of the times, right, we get frustrated and it's annoying. You don't want, you might be late for something, right? But he put it as what if this was created on purpose, right? It could have been created for you. The specific traffic could have been created for you because maybe, which conscious mind doesn't know this, right? Maybe somewhere down the line, your tire is meant to, blow, yeah, right? So if you were going at a higher speed, you would get into a car accident, as an example. Or you can also be a part of someone else's mm, play, we would say it. So it's that traffic is needed for someone within that group of people. And you have all decided to do it together for
Hmm.
whatever reason. The conscious mind does not understand, but this was pre-planned. Maybe they need to be late coming home from work. I don't know, to catch their wife cheating. I don't
Well, it could be a form of butterfly effect if you know that term and that way of thinking. Like something happens, something else has kind of flows into another thing that happens, but also have the concept of alignment, like things should happen to line up for one person or a bunch of people to experience certain things at a certain time. Um, I have a friend that actually would be realizing she's having a certain day. She'll feel it. She'll be like, "Oh, things are not going right today. Maybe I won't go out." Like that, like you get that idea of like waking up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yep.
Like you just wake up and you just feel like there's something off today. Well, my friend would go and actually be thinking about it. Well, I mean, it feels really off today, so maybe I won't. And it turns out, actually, she told me once, she turned out the place that she was going to go to, the way she was going to go to, did have an accident. And she avoided the whole catastrophe by feeling it for herself. But
Yeah.
obviously, that's a more in touch person to really
Yep.
get to the understanding of feeling there's something different going on. But that's not even a part of our conversation here. What we're really saying is that a lot of these things are lined up by our guidance or our support network out there that's trying to get us to do what we need to do for ourselves. It's not to try to control us in any particular way, but like, oh, it can happen in a good way too. Like I've seen stories and even videos of how these like the accidents happen, but then that one person avoided the whole catastrophe just by like an inch away. Like there's this one. Oh, if I could find it. It's in a house and people are just around, but then there's this kid that was just jumping around in front of this entertainment center, and the I don't know why it fell, but it fell forward, and there was just this one little opening. That's exactly where he was standing. So it couldn't be planned any better if it wasn't planned
Hmm.
in some way that we don't understand and perceive. So,
Hmm.
but for it to fall, maybe there's a reason why I needed to fall. There's some other explanation for that.
Hmm.
So every little thing, there's some explanation potentially for why it happened in the way it happened. And but if we notice something that is happening and we think it's happening to us, like especially it's more, I think more people when they think of it, this concept is more about like people doing things to each other. I think that's more of these things are happening to us. um like for instance, if you have a trend of you go to here, I'm trying to think of a good example here. um
You mean when people maliciously do something against each other, or
Not necessarily maliciously, but like there's patterns that show up in a person's life
hmm
that these things keep happening to them. It seems like it's, or they just keep like, um, for instance, I'll just use a live example just because I can't think of any particular fictional example right now. There's someone I know who, has been having some health issues and she's been going to different places to try to get diagnosed, but everywhere she's going she's getting blockages after blockages, and it should be plain enough. You get a scan and then you should get information, but it's not that simple for this particular person. She'll go to a place, she's not resisting or doing anything wrong to make anything be in her way, but she'll go to a place and say she was trying to get a scan. She did what they told her to do. You had to drink a concoction first
Yeah.
and then
Hmm.
let it go through your body
Yep.
and and then you scan. Well, usually you give time for it to get into your body, but they gave her like a small amount, not a full amount that she doesn't see how this little tiny cup would do anything. And then she went straight in to get the scan right away. And then they got a result, but then the result was like, well,
It's
it
not
didn't really,
the
there's nothing
yeah.
there because there was nothing there
Yeah.
to show anything. So that's just one example. It's not like she did anything or maybe something happened with the staff that made that happen, but that happened a couple of times in different locations, so there's no commonality. But for her, she's like, why is this happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
and anyone would say that, not just her, anyone would say that. So but then if you look at it in a different perspective, what is needing this person to experience, why does she need to experience this holdup? There has to be a reason behind that. And that's more of the more metaphysical side of things. Our guidance might be actually blocking it for her for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of defining and figuring out and really kind of set it. I mean, it's frustrating when you're in it. You think like in the moment you can't do anything. You feel a little hopeless when some of these things seem to
I think,
happen to you.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like because we do not trust.
Hmm.
There's no thought or belief that this is happening for a reason. Um, and whatever the reason is to actually help me.
Yeah, because I think also we're ingrained to believe that when people are helping people, it has to be a nice way.
Yes.
So
Something
when it doesn't,
positive.
yeah, it has to be like a nurturing and loving and like,
Mhm.
here you go kind of thing, which
I
is
brought
nice.
you cake.
I know, and it's nice, but, and that does happen too. I'm just not saying that doesn't happen, and that's, but there's also other kinds of support where it's not enabling. You know,
Mhm.
if a person needs to, oftentimes if it's a lesson of sorts, someone's got to understand it in a specific way, and it's oftentimes it's not a coddled way. When you're coddled and being like given the information, you're not getting it as much as you would if you had to like work at it to
Mhm.
get it. So
Yes. And but just a reminder for everyone. Well, first reminder, like and subscribe. But also remember whatever we talk about, these are things that what we believe in. You don't have to. Um, and now I forgot what I was going to say actually, but uh,
yes, this is our crazy girl opinions here.
there you
You
go.
can take
Yes,
it whichever way you do, or you could just toss it out the window. But, we'd rather, though, you would share your opinion and we can talk about it. That would be
but
more
please
fun.
do it. Please do it not in a rude way, right? Everyone is respected. Everyone's opinion is respected. It's very, I love other people's opinions as long as, again, they're put in a respectful manner. We're not
And
here to argue.
respectful meaning allowing another person to have their own opinion, and it's okay. We're not going to try to force anything upon each other to get our point across. So if in the end we can just say we agree to disagree, and it's okay. And we love
Yeah,
you anyway.
absolutely. So back to our topic.
Okay.
I think I got my thought back. I'm gonna find it somewhere in there. But we as humans, unfortunately, do not learn very well strictly from. Well, okay, I was gonna say this, but I'm like, people are gonna misunderstand it. We don't necessarily learn well, only from positive, right? But when we are bringing kids up, positive reinforcement is a plus. I'm going to say that it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, right? But as far as us learning in general, if it's difficult for us, the better we learn. And I know none of us really want to go through it because there is a belief somewhere in our, at least in mine, that I had to change, that life is supposed to be super easy and just go fun, go with the flow. Doesn't always happen.
Well, I have to admit, I'm one of those creatures that need the harder lessons because I tend to be a bit thick-headed. I don't learn things just by people telling me. I'm not very good with that. In fact, you can see that in my grades. Uh, but if I live through it, I'm a more tactile person. I do things and I experience it. Then I put things together in my own head. Then I learn really well, and that sticks.
Mhm.
So, and it goes to the point of like you getting a lot of failures by like, like say we would take a test and you have, bad grades in it. It's the mistakes that stuck with me. Once I fixed them, I'm like, oh, and I remember those far more easily than
Yes.
any of
Mhm.
those things that come to you and like, oh, that was easy. I got that. That's not, you don't learn it as well until you really put hyper focus on. I think that's what really happens is when it's more challenging, we put more focus on it because that our conscious minds tend to. I mean, it makes more sense to be more focused on the things that are harder because if we're thinking about evolutionary wise. We have to be more careful. We have to pay
Mhm.
more attention. We have to be focused in order to not mix mistakes so that, something will bad that can happen. So we try more when we're faced with a harder scenario. So in effect, that's kind of it as well versus something that's easy breezy. You breeze through it and then you forget it by the end of it. So that's kind of what we're saying is that the things that we experience sometimes can be hard as heck and we don't know why, but if we change our perception about it and realize that on the other side, eventually when you get to the other side, it's going to be so much different and better, and it'll be more substantial of a experience once you
Mhm.
do get there. It might take a little time to get there or it might not, you don't know. So instead of just putting the blame out there and just leaving it and stopping it there,
Mhm.
be more curious about what's going on. Is there a pattern? If there is a pattern, there's something there. Might not know what it is in the moment. It might take some time to puzzle that together.
Yes.
But it's that you, instead of just putting the blame out there, it's happening to me. Oh my God, it's and because then we take the responsibility off of ourselves.
Yes.
We blame it on someone else or something else,
Mhm.
and then we just feel bad, and then we tell other people and they align with it and that they feel bad and for you, and then they also feel bad for themselves, and then it kind of goes into this avalanche of not feeling good and also not progressing. Then you go back and you get that pattern yet again.
Yes, it will continue coming until you learn that lesson and go look at your emotions.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
has to do with our emotions, and
They're the clue.
might
They're the clue.
yeah, there's a clue, and it might not be comfortable for you. It depends on how you were brought up. For the most, it could be that in your family, emotions were not allowed. But unfortunately, we cannot live without expressing emotions because it creates a lot of issues within the relationships as well as within the body. And that's just our opinion based on the work that we do, right? That whatever it is that you're suppressing, if you do it for a long period of time, it will start showing up in your body. So if you
And
are
it's
the type
not
of,
just our opinion, actually.
it's
There's a
not,
lot of science these days that show it, actually, how much stress and cortisol, that there are even like scientific words here that show that, yeah, if we keep ourselves in that heightened like stress state, how bad it can sink into our bodies and where it can sink in, it really shows. They're all clues to what we're doing to ourselves, really, in the end. Yeah.
the best actually learning experience comes when you're at your lowest. So when you're feeling you're at your lowest and you're like, you know what? There's really there's no way up. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And guess what? There's only way up because you're all the way on the bottom, right? So there's only way up. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you noticed, but a lot of the times for people who have awakenings, it happens when they're all the way at the bottom.
Sometimes I feel, yeah, I agree sometimes. I don't know if it's all the time, but
Not necessarily all
a
the
lot of
time.
the time, I agree. Yes.
Well, just because that's when the change comes, right? And that's when you make a decision of, okay, I want to feel better. It doesn't matter if it's physical, it doesn't matter if it's emotional. I mean, that's how it was for me. I decided I was in a place where I did not feel well about myself. I did not feel well about where I was. So the only thing we can do is change. Everything is in our hands. Our life is ours. No one is there. No one is going to, and I think we've spoken about it before, but no one is going to come and save you. There is no prince on a white horse, or I don't know what men are looking for as far as savior, right? You are the only person who can save yourself. So it's kind of look at what's not working for you. Start looking at the emotions that you're feeling, right? And start communicating. Communication is the most missed part within the relationships, I find.
Yeah. Yeah, and communicating with the added effort of curiosity. You have to be curious about the other person, not just putting your own, like you can totally, because I think there's that missing aspect too, is when you're communicating, a lot of times people are thinking, oh, you just need to explain yourself better. But it's more than that. It's more so the listening and really
Mhm.
not just listening to words, but listening to the understanding. So and then kind of like mirror it back. You could be thinking you're understanding it, but you don't know it until you relay it back to the other individual what you think you're understanding. So, but then people are not used to that in the sense that, you know, I think we kind of get into the space of almost expectation of understanding for certain things. Like once you say something, it's like that person just should just know the whole context. And oftentimes that's not the case because of just perceptions. You know, we grow up differently. We the
Yeah.
words themselves don't necessarily explain the whole picture. So you have to really focus and be curious about the other individual to really even grasp what they're really trying to say. You know, so and you hear a lot about like reading between the lines and everything because there's so much subtlety to it, not just these words I say, oh, I don't like it. Okay, but why, you know?
Well, yeah, what is it that you don't like? It's kind of like, yeah, I try not to read between the lines because I find it exhausting. If you want to tell me something, tell me straight on because my mind will come up with so many different things that will not even be correct as to
That's
what you're
true.
saying. So, and what I found also, if you are sharing your emotion, how you're feeling about something, right? Because we're so used to feeling that some things are being done to me, right? So when we communicate the same way. And we're like, well, you're doing this to me, right? And of course, what happens, the other person will become defensive
Hmm.
because they're like, what are you talking about? I'm not doing anything to you,
Hmm.
right? So it's important to, even in those little things, take responsibility for your own emotions and be like, this is how I feel. This is how this situation makes me feel. It's not you are making me feel this. No, I'm feeling this. Right. So, and then sit with yourself and figure out what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you want to change? What is it that you want differently? Right. Remember, you can't change the other person. So you can't ask of them something they're not able to give you. Right. Like, for example, if you've never felt loved by your parents, they did their best. They cannot give you more than you are at, more than they're able to. This is right. So it's a matter of sitting down and be like, okay, well, how does love look for me? I know like I'm going in my mind, I'm like, I'm going from one topic to another, I feel like. Hey, but what does love or feeling love mean for me? Like I'll give an example. For me, it's important to be heard, listened and heard, right? That's one of the things that's important to me. For someone else, it could be literally just give me 5 minutes of peace. Like I just want my peace time or whatever it is, an hour, right? Or someone likes when people cook for them. For someone, it's touch. It could be many different things. It could be a combination of things, but figure it out for yourself. And if, let's say, you're not able to get it from your parents, right? Let's say love, because love is the basic thing that we always want, right? So it's kind of like, well, who can give it to you? Well, you can, because you're taking responsibility for yourself and you can actually experience the feeling of love towards yourself. That's just what my thoughts are. What are your thoughts?
I hear you in that you need to address your perception. So basically, it's in the individual's perception of what's happening and in the conversation, and
Mhm.
recognizing the feeling that comes up within the individual. You, you're the one who's feeling it. If you're talking to someone else and they're explaining their experience, and it affects you though, as and it triggers you in some way in any type of emotional way, it the only responsibility on you is one to reflect what you think you hear from them so that they understand that you understand to a level, right? But then it's another step of understanding that if it's affecting you in a negative way, in a way that makes you feel bad, what does that mean to you? Like, be curious about them on trying to understand more what they're doing. It doesn't have to. Thing is, I feel like you shouldn't need to expect them to act in a way that will benefit you per se. It's more of a, if it doesn't align with what you believe is a respectful manner of interaction, ask yourself, why is it in myself? What caused me to feel this way, to, and have it happened before? Is this a pattern that's reflecting? Because
Because
usually our
you're
interactions are
attracting,
right.
yeah,
You're attracting
attracting.
to you the environment of people and situations and experiences that will benefit your path and understanding something. That's why there are patterns that, like, people oftentimes say, "Oh, I always run into narcissists" or something like that, and another person will be like, "Well, I don't get that, but I get a lot of another pattern." We'll just say, um, and especially when we do our work, or as anyone who does work with counseling or healing or in any format, you'll see patterns of how people show up. They tend to have a pattern of what goes around in their environment and themselves. And it's almost like there's a clear textbook of things that these people are working on, in my perspective. Is like you see certain patterns, certain things will be there for certain things to happen. And there I know this sounds a little too kind of stretchy out there, but if if we think that it's done to us, we don't allow ourselves to expand in awareness of the situation of what patterns are for us around us. Like, a lot of the things that happen, there's a reason. It's not, like we said earlier, it's not going to be always comforting. A lot of it will make us feel uncomfortable more than not, and we don't like it, so we tend to avoid it. But once we get more curious, again, I'm kind of keep throwing that word curious out there, the more curious we about the situation and our feelings and what the other person might be experiencing, because we'll never know what the other person experienced. You might be like really close to that person and think we know them to a T, but you still don't. It's impossible to really see from another person's perspective, but you can try, but what really reflects back to you about it? And the more curious you get about any of these will get you more information as to what is going on. And I think that is more the key, to realizing how it is for you in the end, even if it is like in some ways more tragic with the situations that happen, and how it makes you feel worn down and heightened up in a negative way. Again, it's just, we throw in the curiosity, a lot of these things will start to unravel. And just put in your head that this is not to do to harm us, is to do allow us to see something better and grow from it and do better in some way. If you believe in that, then you'll start seeing that. um
Patience is another one, right?
yeah,
Patience
it
to,
takes a lot of patience.
I, there's patience, there's trust,
Mm.
trust that it is for whatever it was, it's for your betterment. Is that even a word? I don't even know, but for your betterment. So it's gonna end up as a plus for you in the long run. You might not see it right now,
And I
right?
want to say trust in the process, not
Trust in the
necessarily
process.
trust in another person. That is, trust in another person is a different topic, I feel.
Yeah, no,
Trust in
I
the
mean trust the
trust in
universe
the yeah, trust
in the
in the
process, trust
process
in the
of what's
process. Yeah.
going on, and there's something valuable to gain from it in the end, for you or for someone else. Sometimes, again, like she said, also sometimes we're just laid up to help someone else and we don't even know what we're doing. In fact,
Right?
I've seen that happen too. Like, people will uncharacteristically act a certain way, um, towards someone else. And looking back, they're like, I don't even know why I said or did that. That's not me. I
Mm.
don't. And
Yeah.
and then the other person though ended up getting something from it though. they get jolted in some negative way or positive way or whatever way, and something happens to that other individual. So I've seen that happen, like, and it just really goes to show how sometimes our guides help us through other people and other things, even animals or our kids or whatever. They'll nudge us along in that way. Um, and so in that case, it really is for us. We just don't know it. It just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just start noticing what's happening. I feel like the moment we start noticing what's happening in our life rather than just going on autopilot,
Hmm.
work, home, kids. Some people don't have kids. So pets, whatever it is, we're so on autopilot that we don't have that enjoyment, that, as you say, excitement,
Hmm.
right? Because if something happens, let's say like we'll do the tire blows, right? I guess my first thought will be, like, why? I'm like late to get here and I have to go here, right? And what if and I'm gonna try this, because I'm not perfect, right? What if we say, how exciting? I wonder why. We don't even need to answer that question at that moment in time, but it's kind of, universe, what can you bring my way? What's happening? What's going on? And maybe it is you need to work through trusting in humanity, for example, and all of a sudden a car stops and they're like, do you need help? We'll help you, right? And you get that help. Whatever it is, there's so many different scenarios. So just trust your gut always, 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 always.
Hmm. Agreed to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any topics for us that you would like us to discuss, because there's a million, and every time we're trying to figure it out, which one we're gonna do next, we're like, there's so many. So we do love hearing from you. And if you have um anything that happened to you recently that you thought was such a bother for you, but then later on you realized that this was perfect and just what you needed to happen in order for you to move forward in your path.
Right. And
Put
especially
it
if
in
you
the
get like
comments.
an amazing epiphany out of it for no something weird happened is epiphany. Whoa. That happens. So, yeah, if you have a story like that to share, yeah, please share. Mhm.
We'd love absolutely. And don't forget to,
Do like, subscribe, and actually even more, comment below more
yes.
if you want more input or suggestions for us to chat about, or suggestions on something else we can offer in this podcast that you would love
Mhm.
to see. We would love to hear. So,
And I also realize that not many know what we actually do, you and I.
yeah.
We sort of say it here and there, but we don't really. So, how about let's take this time and what do you do?
Well, I'll say it very generically first. Well, I help people connect with their higher guidance until they can do better themselves, because a lot of it everyone can do. I totally believe, and I believe Sophia agrees, that everyone can access their inner guidance much better than they realize they can do. And a lot of times we have blockages and things get in the way and it's not so clear, but we can all do that. So that's what I do, and I aim to teach and allow other people to get to that point for themselves. But in the meanwhile, I will tap into your higher guidance, and sometimes it'll come through as mediumship work as well. But I do readings as well as offering QHHT sessions like Sophia does. I do it in Connecticut, and she does it in Florida.
Yay. So, yeah, because QHHT is only done in person only.
Yeah.
So, QHHT stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And maybe we should do a whole episode on um, different things that we received from QHHT.
Mm.
We
Or
shall
or
see.
and sessions, because I do QHHT, but also half of my work is intuitive reading type, channeling type of work too. So I do a lot of, and also emotion clearing. I have a modality in emotional clearing as well. So if anybody wants that, DM me, PM me, or whatever me, and we can talk about it.
There's information below, by the way.
Yes, yes. And that all of that can be online. I usually do Zoom, but QHHT, yes, that's the only thing we would do in person, and that is an experience worth doing at least once in your life because then you actually get to experience what we can share with you. I can tap into someone's past lives and I can see it and it's great, but imagine if you could,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be a past life. It could just be like getting into a nook and cranny memory that you blocked for a long time and you wanted to bring up to get rid of some messy stuff that's inside of you, that kind of thing. That's what we do. QHHT is great with that, but that in itself, you can do it yourself and see it firsthand. So that's what I find beautiful about QHHT, as well as you get to spend a day to like spend for yourself, self-care. It's like a best time. You have someone like us, supporting you and being there for you, but you just get to be more relaxed and away from normal life for a minute just to really sink into yourself. And yeah, I really highly recommend a session wherever you are. Just look it up. We'll put a link below to the official QHHC website if you want a session for yourself.
And you can find a practitioner near you, which
Yep.
is amazing.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, absolutely. And I also find it interesting. So within the QHHD, we connect to the higher self, right? And it's kind of you leave with that connection, right?
Yeah.
You leave with an understanding of where it's at, and you can you can use it afterwards on your own.
Yeah.
Right? Because even within the session, I always tell people, we don't do anything. We're strictly the guides.
Mm-hmm.
You did everything. All the healing that happens, all the emotional clearing that happens, all of that, that's you. Because remember, you and your subconscious are one. Well, Dolores calls it subconscious, right? Not from the psychology perspective, subconscious. I usually call it the higher self, right? You and your higher self are one. You are very much intertwined. So um, even though the higher self is what's doing the work, but it's really you are still part of that. It's like a team. It's a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
love knowing that we have that compass within us,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And even if you're feeling lost, know that it's only temporary.
And you're never, ever, ever alone. You might think you are on a physical, you might feel that way on a physical, and you'll block everything else out. But if you really quiet your being, they're there. You know it. You just will. And as you practice more to do so, you will understand what we're saying. You might be like, whatever, I don't hear anything. I don't know what you guys are talking about. But it's something that we all can do. And when we do listen well, that's when we start to feel better about all aspects of ourselves. Our health starts improving because we feel better about where we're going in life. So yeah, anyway, Sophia, what do you do
Oh, what do I do?
besides
Oh, I forgot. Because one thing I wanted to say is that and I lost it. Okay, so I do QHHT in Florida, as you mentioned. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. So, you know how we say, I think we a lot of times have this misconception that when we talk about, let's say your guides talking to you or your higher self talking to you, we have this misconception that we're gonna hear in our ear something, like we'll know that it's from some other place. Again, these are all parts of us, so they usually communicate with us through thoughts, right? Epiphanies, right? Epiphanies. That's or it will be a thought, right? It's up to us to accept that thought or to push it away. So I'm gonna finish with that, but I'm gonna say what I do. So I'm also a channeler. So I channel guides. My guides come through. Your guides come through. And again, they are there to help you grow, right? So if you come with an issue, or not necessarily an issue, or something that's bothering you, they will show it to you from a different perspective. They might, depending on the person, they might help you deal with it. It really depends because they don't necessarily ever want to interfere in your growth, but they will definitely help you see things from a different perspective and help you out in that way. I'm finding that a lot, more and more.
Wonderful.
And
Yes.
as you know, we already put little clips of Carrie channeling or myself channeling based on the topic that we are talking about. So you kind of get a clue as to how it happens or how it sounds.
Yes. Yes. So again, if you have any suggestions or comments, please list it below, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Like and subscribe. Bye.